through some kind of a service interface. So for instance, you should be able to unplug your BPM engine from your SOA infrastructure, plug in the next vendor's BPM engine. Same thing with the rules engine or even XSLT. Next point is kind of pretty much the same. Open source tends to have components that are lighter weight, industry standard, and plug and play. And this is exactly what you want from your SOA infrastructure because of the pace of the innovation, because you want to be able to swap the vendor as kind of this infrastructure becomes more and more mission critical. Support is key. I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to download the next greatest thing from the internet and kind of put it in production. Right, so we see, again, when I mention professional open source, it's open source software that's supported by a vendor, much like Red Hat, let's say, and JBoss. Because once you get into mission-critical applications, and so it will become mission-critical, you want to make sure that this thing is supported in production. I mean, not only for your sake, but also you want to make sure that your CIO or your CTO is sleeping well. And this stuff is just not going to get acceptance if it doesn't have support, especially for production implementations. And as it becomes more and more mission critical, and as you're putting more transactions through it, again, these things will break, and you want to have a neck to choke, so to speak. Keeping costs down while scaling out, an important point. Again. A lot of shops start very small, so they say, well, we have a couple of servers of this web services or SOA running. Let's wait and see. But very quickly, if you do it right, the business will want to create more and more services. The business will want you to grow this infrastructure because more and more transactions will be pumping through it. So you will need to scale out quite quickly. And you don't want, you have to keep the costs of that in mind because you don't want to pay, very large amounts of money per server. And sometimes you will need to add 3 or 4 or 5 more servers. And, looking out maybe 2-3 years down the road, with Amazon Cloud, I know a lot of you guys came here to hear the virtualization stuff. Amazon Cloud or infrastructure as a service will become more prevalent. So how is your licensing schema right now for your SOA infrastructure going to mesh with your infrastructure as a service or virtualization? So again, you have to keep that in mind, even though right now it might seem like it's going to be small. Last point is very similar. Commodity infrastructure. You want to host it, or you want everything to be a commodity, so you can scale out. You can be plug and play. This is going back to some goals that were set for the client, let's say for the year. It was some very specific, almost like a task list, what needed to be done for this specific client. So I spoke about, we defined a set of enterprise-level services for each business domain. So we got that done. We established industry-standard XML canonical models, and in this case it was XBRL, and Oasis CAQ. So we've done that right off the bat. Establish shared commodity infrastructure. Yes, you have to invest time in building out at least a first level of this SOA infrastructure. In this case, it's RHEL, Dell, JBoss. Messaging platform, enterprise service bus platform. Again, because this is an enterprise level build out, there had to be a little bit more work up front that was put in to kind of establish this platform. Policy and security management infrastructure, and really establish an enterprise technology stack, what we call the golden image, which is essentially a set of supported software that can be deployed on demand as an image, essentially as we're scaling out. So these are very specific goals that we established for the client to be able to turn them around, in addition to all the other things that we applied. So here's really a logical picture of what this deployment looked like. You see, again, it was enterprise-level build-out. We had the enterprise service bus infrastructure, which was JBoss Service Mix, enterprise messaging, data services and virtualization, this is your meta matrix component, which allows you to rapidly build out data-driven services, allows you to kind of get data out of multiple databases and make it look like really one data set. Security and identity management, that's standalone. That's your SOA infrastructure, your JBoss rules, JBPM, business process engine, and we kind of build up the stack as we went along. As we get more opportunities from different projects, we added another piece to the infrastructure and then started using it. We didn't deploy all of this at once. This is more of an end state. The last piece was actually the portal infrastructure that we put in place that took advantage of some of these services. And you can see in the middle,